Hello students, welcome back to my channel Competitive Botany. In this video we are going to discuss about the mechanism of photosynthesis. So the mechanism of photosynthesis involves two steps. They are, first one is light reaction and second one is dark reaction. These two were identified by scientist Blackman. So light reaction is also called as photophosphorylation. Photophosphorylation means the light driven production of ATP. So ATP is going to synthesize in the light reaction. Okay, so ATP plus NADPH are going to synthesize in the light reaction. So these two were called as assimilatory power. By using this assimilatory power, CO2 is going to fixed into a carbohydrate. Okay, CO2 is going to get reduced into carbohydrate. Okay, so that happens in the dark reaction. So the actual site of light reaction is grana of chloroplast. The site of light reaction is grana of chloroplast. Why? Because the pigments responsible for the fixation of light energy, they were present on the membrane of thylakoid. Okay, so that's why the site of light reaction is grana of the chloroplast. Whereas the site of dark reaction is stroma of the chloroplast. Why? Because the enzymes which are necessary to fix the CO2 are present in the stroma of the chloroplast. Let's see the equation of light reaction. H2O plus ADP plus PI plus NAD plus gives rise to ATP plus NADPH plus oxygen in presence of light with the help of chlorophyll pigments. Okay, so this is the actual equation of the light reaction. What happened here? So with the help of light and chlorophyll, ATP and NADPH, this is the ATP and NADPH both are called as assimilatory power. They are generated in the light reaction. So oxygen is released as a byproduct. Okay, so let's see the equation of dark reaction. CO2 plus ATP plus NADPH gives rise to carbohydrate plus ADP plus NAD plus. So what happened in the dark reaction? CO2 is reduced to carbohydrate with the help of assimilatory power, nothing but ATP and NADPH. Okay, so let's see the light reaction in detail. So light reaction is also called as photophosphorylation. This was first described by the scientist Daniel Arnan. So what is light reaction? What happened in light reaction? So light driven production of ATP occurs in chloroplast is nothing but photophosphorylation. So light driven production of ATP in chloroplast is called as light reaction. Actually, light reaction is again two types. Cyclic photophosphorylation second one is non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Let's see one by one. Let's see the first type of photophosphorylation, cyclic photophosphorylation. Okay, so light driven production of ATP. Okay, with the help of light, there will be the production of ATP. So in case of cyclic photophosphorylation, why it is called as cyclic photophosphorylation? Nothing but, so the electrons exerted from the PS1, they come back to the PS1 in a cyclic manner. So that's why it is named as cyclic photophosphorylation. Let's see, when the light fall on PS1, it get excited, the chlorophyll of reaction center, it gets oxidized, it releases 2 electrons to the primary electron acceptor. So then the electrons passed to sequentially to electron carriers one by one. They are transferred to ferredoxin and then to plastoquinone and then to cytochrome and then to plastocyanin. Plastocyanin is a mobile carrier which transfers finally electrons to the PS1. Finally it gets reduced again. So it's a cyclic pathway. That's why it is named as cyclic photophosphorylation. Okay, it was first demonstrated by a scientist Frankel. He worked on Rhodospirillum rubrum, which is a purple non-sulfur bacteria. So he demonstrated this pathway. So finally electrons they coming back to the PS1. That's why it is named as cyclic photophosphorylation. Here no photolysis of water occurs. No NADPH preparation occurs. It involves only PS1. You know how the ATPs are synthesized? When the electrons are passing through the cytochrome complex, protons are released into the lumen. When the electrons are passing through the cytochrome complex, protons are released into the lumen by the utilization of that proton energy. So the ADP will convert into ATP. With the help of protons, when they passing through the ATP synthase, they releases energy. That energy will be utilized by the ADP for the formation of ATP. Okay, when they passing through the cytochrome complex, they releases protons into the lumen. When they coming back to the stroma, okay, so they releases energy. That energy used up by the ADP for the synthesis of ATP. Okay, let's see the second type of photophosphorylation, non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So it involves both the photosystems, so PS2 and PS1. Okay, so when the light falls on PS2, so it get oxidized by the release of 2 electrons. So the released electrons were transported to primary electron acceptor. So it transfers 2 electrons to the plastoquinone and then to cytochrome and then to plastocyanin. Plastocyanin is a mobile carrier. Now the electrons were present in plastocyanin, remember. Meanwhile, so the light falls on PS1 again, the reaction center is P700. It also oxidized with the release of 2 electrons. That's why it releases 2 electrons accepted by primary electron acceptor and then to the ferredoxin. Finally the electrons reach to NADP plus. There it is going to reduced. So before that you need to know there is oxygen evolution complex present at the lumen side. Okay, so when light falls on H2O, it gets split into 2 electrons, 2 protons and 1 nascent oxygen. Okay, so PS2 is oxidized and by the release of, it releases 2 electrons. That's why it should be again reduced. Okay, then The two electrons released from the water transported to the PS2. It is again reduced with the two electrons released from the water molecule. Two protons are released. They were added to the NADP+. It gets reduced into NADH plus H+. So that is the reducing power. This is energy molecules ATP released when the electrons passing through the cytochrome complex. The energy will be released in the form of protons. The protons, when they passing back to the stroma, they releases energy. That energy will be used up by the ATP synthase for the production of ATP molecules. Okay, so in case of stroma side, in case of lumen side, there is oxygen evolution complex which involved in the photolysis of water. It supplies two electrons to the PS2 to get reduced again. It supplies two protons to the NADP for the reduction purpose. Okay, so oxygen is released as a byproduct. Okay, so there is another enzyme complex present at the stroma side, that is NADP reductase, which helps in the reduction of NADP+. Okay, then NADP get reduced into NADPH. It is a predominant pathway occurs in plants. So it is called Z scheme due to the characteristic feature of zigzag shape. It is called Z scheme electron transport. Okay.